When I first looked at sheets of all of the different shapes of triads and all the different ways you could play them, it seemed like this overwhelming amount of information and there was no logical place to start. So in this video, instead of trying to break down all of triad theory, I'm just going to look at one hand position that I believe is the most useful group of triads to learn first. The goal will be to put these triads in the context of a progression and to connect them to chord shapes that we already know, so that hopefully by the end of this video, you guys will be able to start using them in your own playing right away. The chord progression that we're going to use for this example is the same one that we touched on at the end of the last video, this 1-5-6-4 progression in C. This is probably the most common chord progression in all of modern rock and pop music. If you guys saw the 4-chord song by the Axis of Awesome, this is the chord progression that they used to make that song. We're going to approach it from this hand position starting here, with a triad, second inversion, barred with the first finger. Triads can be thought of as just stripped down chords. They're just the simplest way of playing the 3 notes that are in a chord. This is just the top part of this C bar chord, but instead of having the 5, the 1, the 5, the 1, and the 3, we have just one expression of each note, the simplest possible way of playing the chord. There's a few reasons I think this hand position is the most useful and the best one to learn first. One of them is that it's based off one of the 2 most common bar chord shapes, so you'll often be playing the progression that you're doing with this shape as the 1 chord, so it makes it very easy to get into it. Secondly, using this as the root triad is very easy to slide up into, and it gives us as many extra fingers to play around with as possible. And thirdly, this hand position has all of the triads in the scale, and all of them are inside of the box that is the most popular minor pentatonic box. That's an A minor pentatonic, A being the relative minor of C major. So this is the minor pentatonic that you would use to solo over a C major chord progression. So you get all of the triads of the C major progression inside of the A minor pentatonic box, and it really just gives you a lot to work with in one hand position. Let's look at finding all 4 of the chords. We start with this one here, which has the root in the middle. That means it's a second inversion triad. If we play up the C major scale from there to our next chord, the 5 chord, we have, and we can build a triad off of that position, staying on the same 3 strings that we were on before. This G major triad is just a part of this G bar chord shape, which, if you know your Caged system, this is the C chord shape from Caged. Now there's really 2 easy ways to get to the 6th chord. You can either slide up to a minor triad there, or if we really want to keep the hand position as tight as possible, you can go back to the original root and go 1, 7, 6, and build a 6th triad here, right next to the root 1. I love these triads because they make you notice how the chords are connected. Like here, you can see that a 1 chord and a 6 chord share 2 of the same notes. They're only 1 note away from each other. And then, in order to get to the 4 chord, we just have to add 1 more note as well. A 6 chord and a 4 chord share 2 notes as well. So if we play all of them in succession, it looks like this. Or if you want to use the high version of the 6 chord, it looks like this. So now that we have this basic hand position, let's look at what we could do to put in some little fills and make some interesting movement. One of the best things about triads is that you really don't have to play the whole thing when you're soloing. You can pick one note out of it or two notes out of it and create these double stops. It just really helps you to know which notes are in the chord and which are going to be your best landing tones to play with when you're soloing. But if we wanted to keep this triad feel and put some little fills, I really like this one on the 1. The 2 and the 3 chord of the scale are minor, and those triads are here and here. So really what you're doing in the middle of the 1 chord is hinting at the 2 and the 3 chord. And then sliding up to the 5 chord. And then there's a really nice run you can do down through that pentatonic box from the 5 chord down to the lower voicing of the 6 chord. So if you're going to play that whole progression with the little fills and everything, it would look like this.